lot of built structures there. The kiosk would have something about history, something about a map of the island, and maybe something about the fact that there really is a town there. Sometimes people can drive right through Bainbridge and not know there's a town over there. We'd like the ground cover to be tough and walkable so that you're not limited to just planting yourself on the path, but maybe you could take your bike, let your bike rest down on the ground cover and relax there for a little while and be a gathering place, a short-term gathering place. We'd like a drinking fountain. We'd like the kiosk, the drinking fountain, and one other thing. To be aesthetically, that could be the art. We don't see that there's very much space there. It's not a sculpture park. We're not sure that there'd be room for actual art plunked into there, but the things that we think belong in there, maybe a low stone wall that could double as seating, all of those things, the wall, the drinking fountain, the kiosk, should be aesthetically beautiful, and that could be the art built in.
Where a low rock wall that would be like a seating area as well could be, but that it's not, we don't want a barrier all along.
So one of the theme we had when we came up with all these ideas was that the park had kind of two purposes. It was a way to transit from the town to the ferry, or from the ferry to the town. And the other was that it could become a meeting place for people when you have someone coming off the ferry and you're coming down to meet them, or a place for people to wait, like cyclists, maybe they've been out on their summer ride, they wait until they see the ferry come in and they go down the hill. And so those ideas, I think, went around that as the theme.
And then one thought was in the center to have a large map of the island. A lot of people get off and they don't realize they're on an island. They saw the water, they came to Winslow, and they see Winslow, but they don't know what the rest of the island's like. So to have a large map, maybe 20 feet, just made out of concrete, or somebody talked about putting mosaics, something like that, so people could look down and say, this is an island, and I'm part of it.
But the number one top priority for this table was to make sure that the cleanup of this site does not get passed over, that we get so excited about designing it that the cleanup does not get put down on a lower priority. So we want to stress that the cleanup and make sure it's done properly and right, and that it's a safe site, is the number one top priority over everything else. With that said, we would love to see it be a welcome, including like a lit sign, so that when people drive onto the island, they know that they're actually on Bainbridge, not in Canada. So we want to make sure that they know that. We want to make sure that we do keep the existing features. Let's see here. Sorry, got a page here. We do want to make sure that things are kept minimal. We agreed that it should be mostly pedestrian. If bicyclists do want to use it, keep like a bike trail more on the roadside edge, because we did learn that maybe someday mass transit may want to cut some of that out, and then that way it could be easily cut and we don't have a bunch of stuff out there other than the bike trail. So if we do a bike trail, keep that on the outer edge, and then keep the foot traffic and things welcome on the inner part. Way back here is the park. I represent the West Sound Wildlife Shelter, so one of the ideas that I threw out was to create wildlife habitat in that area. So if you have gardens, keep it native plants. The island is a wildlife certified habitat by the National Wildlife Federation. So a number of homes have certified their backyards, businesses, schools, churches. And the island itself is a community wildlife habitat certified. And so I would love to see like a sign in there, a couple signs talking about that. That Bainbridge is proud of the natural resources they have here and of the wildlife. And promote that. And so we keep it kind of a natural, you know, if you have gardens, use the native plants, things like that. And have some signage in there about that. Put information in there.
Just a welcome to Bainbridge, but for people like me who ride the bus out of there every day, it's a welcome home. And it was actually pointed out, interestingly, so you all learned something tonight that you did not know, that it has been scientifically proven that use of nature on your commute home will reduce stress in your home. Okay, so I could go for some of that. I think that we talked a lot about the context of it, not just as a pedestrian space, but as part of other transportation routes. So it's not just the highway, but that there are bicycle pathways, and this could be a node for that, even if it's not necessarily used by bicycles as a transit space, that it could be a node along what is now like a town-wide trail connecting point. When we talked about the history, we talked about a lot of things like the Japanese history and the tribal history, and when you think about all the things that have happened here, shipbuilding, and there are so many things that maybe those things don't literally become incorporated, but that there are maybe subtle references that nobody would necessarily know, but that there could be references in materials or methods or things like that. Actually, one of the things that came up was that the fence, as awful as it is, it serves a real purpose, which is that we have a sort of a community billboard that, you know, when it goes away, if it's gone, how are we going to have a banner that says that there's a school open house? Or, I mean, not that they're all great, but that there is sort of a functional element to that, and if there's any way to keep some kind of community notice going. And that maybe that could be an artistic element, but that we felt like art should be really functional and also integrated and not kind of a clunked thing. And that we should maybe think about bringing some contemporary aesthetic to some of this, in that we do have a lot of history, but we also are an island that produces a lot of children that are going to go forward in the future, and that it's not just about what has happened, but
maybe not as well organized as some of the others, but actually a lot of what was said came up here too. And we were thinking about the area particularly as a sort of a connection or a link. So in terms of pedestrians, you've got them coming up from the ferry, you want to have the information. It's also a link between the two different sides. I don't think we thought there was too much space for very much art, but we were thinking particularly about the idea of some sort of a rotating a place where you could have a different sculpture every month or every 2 or 3 months or something of that sort, rather than trying to come up with one signature piece. We talked about the signage, the idea of having something perhaps where you could have some banners and information. We didn't get into specifics about whether a kiosk or what exactly, but some way to provide information for people coming into town as to what's where. Let's see, as far as the pedestrian routes, we thought it was important to give people a way to get a little bit back from the traffic, because the traffic on the highway is kind of scary if you're walking and noisy, and so.
Yes, for solar lighting perhaps, and need for low maintenance. And there was also definitely looking for things for recycling and trash as another location. And Carol, what else did we miss?
Get people up to the park, because they still don't know there's anything beyond the ferry terminal when they get off the boat. We talked about possibly having some kind of a boardwalk. If the site needs to be maintained in some way, that the boardwalk can be lifted and so forth. Raised beds. Sculptures that could also be signage, or incorporate that in some way. And some way to accommodate the banners that are currently there in a more orderly manner that would be attractive and still serve the community. We wanted it to say welcome to Bainbridge Island in so many words. And then we talked about information sharing. We talked about possibilities of like a digital kiosk, or even moving on into the 21st century with QR codes.